be an interesting one. Let's see if my voice can make it. Are we up? Are we up? Network error. There we go. Let's see. I don't really have a. Let me get my links up here. YouTube and streaming. Let's see. I don't know. Let's warm up. Let's get my voice warmed up too. Let's say every year at about this time, I get something stupid with allergies. Makes for a fun experience. Preferences, edit, turn off line cursor to surface here. Oh, you know what else I need to do? Grab this. There we go. Alrighty. Let's see if there's anything interesting I've got written down that might be fun to do. Here come those normal stamps. Let's just pick something. Okay, so just as a warm-up here, I'm looking at some random objects. We'll figure something out. See how many of these look cool. Thank you. Okay, so where do I want to start? Let's go ahead and, you know, some of these might be interesting to make. There's some potential here. All right, we're going to start with a cartoon pig. Maybe not. All right. We have X turned on. We have a polymesh here. You want to hit Make Polymesh 3D, and you're going to want to go in here to DynaMesh. You don't have to go into DynaMesh, but I like to start with DynaMesh. And let's start with clipping. And we'll just go ahead and just clip. We have X turned on across the X symmetry here. And we'll go ahead and turn line off, and we'll go ahead and stretch this out. All right. Let's also go ahead and start inserting some meshes here. So I'm just going to insert these meshes. And you know what we could do? Also turn on LSim so that when you're scaling across an axis, it scales like this, as opposed to like this. And then we'll just go ahead and use the move brush here. Insert single edge loop with my Z modeler brush. And go ahead and move this stuff back. Let's go ahead and hit D to turn on dynamic subdivisions here. And I'm also going to see if I can't do a group by normals. And let's go ahead and mirror and weld. Actually, no, it might be easier. Let's see. Insert single edge loop. Let's grab these top two here. Delete hidden. I'm just going to kind of make this a little bit more even. And if I go down the bottom here, I can do polygroups, group front. And I'll go ahead and split that one out, delete hidden, and now I can do QMesh, polygroup all, and go ahead and pop these out. Now I'm going to hit D, and now I'm going to crease by polygroup. And also let's go through here on the side, and let's do insert, multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. And I'll go ahead and pop this thing out here. So, and now for this view here, let's go into our trim dynamic brush. And go into my insert brushes. Let's try one of these. Not what I was looking for. Let's try this one. Spaceship parts, this might be okay. Let's see, I'm looking for just kind of long. This'll work. And let's go ahead and unify this back. Oops. Merge all this down. And we'll go ahead and unify. We don't have a topic today. I'm just trying to stay alive for the next 2 hours. If you have any questions, let me know. And right now I'm just getting warmed up with brush settings here. It's actually been a while since I've been in ZBrush. Let's see, auto masking, back face masking. And go ahead and pull this up. Get rid of those little crumblies. And I'm going to raise this resolution up just a little bit. And we'll keep clipping. And you know what, let's go grab the trim smooth border brush. Oh, okay, brush. Trim. and trim smooth border, and I guess we can go ahead and throw a square alpha on this one here. And we can go ahead and throw square alphas on here. Question, how would you go about making a feather texture? Probably the easiest way would be go find a texture of it and then grab an alpha from that texture. I mean, if you wanted to do that, let me see. In ZBrush repository feather. I know there's a lot of tutorials on making feathers, along with I guess you could use NanoMesh, or here's one by Pablo. Let's see, 3-part video tutorial in HD showing additional method to create low poly feathers with NanoMesh. Let me see if I can just eyeball it here. Yeah, I guess we could. I don't know. Let's go through that. Let's see if I'm logged in. No, of course not. Quills, secondary, how to approach feathers. Let's see, fibers, methods. Dynamesh and redynamesh. Mask, rake brush. Okay, so basically, and again, just go to www.zbrushguides.com by Pablo Munoz Gomez. The first one we're going to do is this one here, which is basically stretch out a shape, get the silhouette, go through here, Dynamesh, redynamesh, put a tube down the middle, it looks like, and then use the rake brush, add details with symmetry. Turn on backface masking, curve tube brush to add random areas here. So that'd be pretty, that method seems pretty straightforward. Grab a sphere, go in here, go into edit mode, hit W, go ahead and scale it out, and then scale it down. So you got a flattened shape like this. At this point, I suppose you probably want to make PolyMesh 3D, and we could also just hit Dynamesh, keep the default resolution. That's probably a decent resolution to work with. If you're going to be working on a very thin mesh, and you go through here and you grab your clay buildup brush and you kind of pull this through, you're going to want to make sure for all your brushes you have backface masking on. That's not going to be global. So go in here, your standard brush, trim brush, H polish, any brush you're going to be using, you're going to want to make sure backface masking is turned on. So let's see. Again, just going through here. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. For each of the decision following guide you through, okay. Add a cylinder and scale on the y-axis to create the middle part here. So we could, if we have X turned on, X symmetry turned on here, we can just go into our primitive brushes here. For you guys, it'd be BI, brush, insert, base, or whatever primitives you have in there. I'm going to use my custom one here, and we'll go ahead and drop a cylinder right down the middle. And now we'll just go ahead and do a split mask points and rotate this holding down shift. And we'll scale this down. Now if we go down to the bottom here, and we have the pivot point set to the bottom, so now I just need to scale this thing up, like so. And we can keep moving this down here. Yep. Okay, and then you can use the smooth brush and pinch brush here. So if you hold down shift to smooth, that'll go ahead and smooth it to a point. And we'll go ahead and move this back as well, kind of embedded in there, I suppose. And if you hold down Alt and then hold down Shift, it's going to put that line behind you, and then you can just pop that back through like this. If you don't like that, or you want to use the traditional method, or ZBrush 4R7, an earlier method, you can turn off lazy mouse and then just hold down the Shift key, and then just kind of move your brush down. I'm going to go to Smooth Stronger and then drop that down. That seems a little bit high. Okay. With perspective off in the front view, move your tool and push things around to get a rough silhouette of your feather. So now you can go through here. You can go here with your move brush here. And if you have X symmetry turned on, it'll be a symmetrical feather, but you probably want to go ahead and turn that off, like so. So now we've got a feather texture here, or a feather silhouette outline. And yeah, let's just keep going. Okay, going right through. To mirror the details on the other side, use mirror and well to increase your dynamesh resolution. Wait a minute, once you're happy with the overall shape, go to a side view and mask half of the feather of the back of it using mask rectangular. Now you can use the rake brush to sketch out the details of the feather, then carve some lines. So let's grab the rake brush. So there's I just hit BR. Like I said before, if you start sculpting through, you're going to want to have backface masking on here so it doesn't sculpt through. Or alternatively, like he said, you can go through here and you can mask half of that, and then you'll just leave it alone. So now let's go through here, and it looks like that intensity is a little high. So let's go ahead and drop that intensity down, and let's go ahead and just do rake. And you probably want to make this brush size smaller. I'm just kind of filling this in here, so spend more time on that. Now you can invert the mask and flatten the back a little bit. Yeah, so we can hit Control Tap to invert your masks, and then hit the transpose line here, and then we'll go through here and we'll scale this back. So now the back is flattened. To mirror the details on the other side, use mirror and well to and increase the dynamesh resolution and redynamesh. So if you did want to make this symmetrical, is he saying mirror and well across the X? That's not what I'm really getting here. To mirror the details to the other side, use mirror and well, then increase your dynamesh, redynamesh. Before beginning to add details, you activate symmetry. That's not giving me a symmetrical model. And clip curve tube. Carve some more lines using damn standard brush and smooth peaks to polish feather without losing the cavities you created. Okay, so also you can go in here with your Damien standard, and you can go through here and you can just carve this out if you want to. You can also go in here to your lazy radius. And again, turn on backface masking or mask the back of it manually. You can hold down Alt if you want to pull out, and then just let go of Alt if you want to push back in. So with Damien standard, you could do both. And this one, we can go ahead and move. Maybe. Let's go ahead and move this out. Turn on transparency and ghost maybe, and oh yeah, okay, we don't have any resolution on this thing. So easy way to add resolution is go in your Z modeler brush, hover over insert multiple edge loops. We can probably do a specified elevation of 0. That should be the default, and now we can just add some edge loops in here. There we go. And now we can use the move brush to kind of move this back. You can alternatively move this back or use standard brush to kind of push that back as well. And if you wanted to, I suppose you could DynaMesh this. Let's go ahead and just DynaMesh that. And we can now smooth this. And if you wanted to, you could pinch, you could smooth to flatten it. You could use inflate to fatten it up if you needed to. And also through here, I don't think he mentions it, but it looks like there's some pieces in here that are kind of chopped out. I guess I would use a clip curve maybe, or also use maybe snake hook to kind of go through here and kind of pull in and pull out. Also, I guess feathers are kind of, they do kind of bow out. They're not really hard or flat. I think this inside might need to be bowed a little bit more. But we can go back to our rake brush on this side. We have the back face masking turned on, so we can just go through here and we can just add lines to the back side. And then again, Damien standard. Hold down Alt. You get the idea. And then, yeah, so I guess clipping in here to kind of get these kind of shapes going. Or like I said before, snake hook. And also if you go into the move settings, everybody's favorite, brush, curve, AccuCurve turned on in your move settings, and you can kind of pull the points might be useful. And then you can just re-DynaMesh this, and we'll go ahead and clip. Okay, so we've got those shapes pulled out. Yeah, and I guess I don't think that working in transform, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the back face and working on a thin mesh and duplicating and mirroring, it doesn't seem to be going, it doesn't seem to be what's in the image. So I'm going to skip that. Finally, you can use Curve Tube Brush to add a little bit of randomness in areas by creating thin individual barbs. So we can go to Brush Curve BC, Brush Curve Tube, and now you can just kind of go through here. And, you know, so you see that long rubber band, it keeps wanting to make more curves off of that curve. Go over here to Stroke, Curve, Modifiers, change that curve snap distance down to something small, because I really don't need to be snapping. And now when I go through here, and I guess let's go ahead and turn off X, you can go through here and you can just tap off. You can make a little random thing and then tap off. And just like anything I'm doing right now, spend more time making it look nice. I'm just going through the motions here. Okay, we got stragglers. We've carved in our detail haphazardly, but again, take your time, make it look nice. Save this model as your base mesh and duplicate it, create other variants, and then do a little bit of poly paint as well. So I guess let's go ahead and merge this thing down. And then if we wanted to, we could go into, let's go into Skin Shader. And we got our standard brush here. Let's turn on RGB. And let's do a, I guess let's do a pretty dark color. And we'll go ahead and fill that color fill. Color. Fill object. Or not. Anything masked. Let's see. MRGB. Okay. So we've got that color fill, and then we're just going to go grab a lighter color, and then we'll go back to RGB. We'll move our intensity down, and now we can kind of just color this in, and then maybe go to a little browner. here. And again, we're just using the www dot. I guess I don't need to say that anymore, right? ZBrushguides.com. Go there, look at the feather tutorial. And actually, let's drop this down. I don't like that skin shader. Let's do basic material, M, color, fill object. And then we'll go in here to the material, modifiers. And then we can drop the specular down. And if I guess we can make the specular curve up a little bit. You know, and obviously, if you spend more time and you get in there with a tiny rake brush and you make this look a little bit better, so along with your Damien standard, you'll get a much better result, as well as placing a lot more of these things and scattering them a little bit better. We can go through here and did we DynaMesh this all together? Let's see. You could DynaMesh this all together. I might be inclined to keep those separate. I don't know. That might give you a better result. Just have separate subtools. And then if you wanted to make an alpha out of it, again, we're just going through the ZBrush guides here. Yeah, front-back symmetry. The weird thing about front-back symmetry is if you're telling me to flatten this back piece out and then sculpt on the front here, I'm not sure how well that would work. I guess we can try. Let's see, transform, activate symmetry in the X and Z. And yeah, because I think the first thing was, unless I'm following these steps wrong, X, make PolyMesh 3D, W. So if the problem is, anyway, go ahead and DynaMesh this. The problem is if right now as it is, we could do that. So we go to transform, activate symmetry across the X and Z, go into our rake brush here. And if we do have backface masking turned on here, it'll go ahead and mask, and this will work fine. But if part of the step is to go through here, mask half, first of all, don't have symmetry turned on, mask half, and then flatten the other side, which I think I read. If that's the case, let's see if this will work. Yeah, I mean, it'll transfer some detail back there. And I guess you just, and on this case here, you would just have to go through and just kind of clean up a little bit of detail on the sides, because yeah, it's not going to do perfectly symmetrical because it's not a symmetrical object. In the Z anyways, unless I did those steps wrong. So load your alpha and start pulling it onto your model. So we've got our object here. Now you can invert. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. Carve some more lines and then use smooth peaks to polish the feather without losing the cavities you created. So if we go here and we hold down, we go B, S to go to our smoothing brushes, we can do smooth peaks. And now when we hit shift, we can go through here and we can smooth these peaks a little bit if you want and still maintain our cavities. And then for the alpha, okay, I was going to say we haven't done that yet. Detailed base mesh, create an alpha is easy. Drag your 3D model to the canvas, go to the front view, alpha palette transfer, subpalette, click on grab dock. Okay, let's talk about that. So, if you do want to, if you want to see your entire document, you're going to want to go over here to the document menu here. And you can actually zoom, transform, material, document. Jeez, can't get up there. Mapping is off a little bit. Okay, so document, we can zoom out of our document, and you can't really see that background very well. Let me change that. I guess it's right here, document background. So now you can see the whole document. If I go to actual, this is the edge of my document, so I can see it pretty well. If you wanted to capture it a larger size or square, what you can do. So right now, basically, it's just going, hey, alpha, grab dock, and you're going to get an alpha in there. If you want to capture this at a particular size, if you wanted to make like a 1024 by 1024, turn off proportional, hit resize, hit Control N, and now you can drag this back out in your canvas. Now, again, to make sure you see your entire document, go into the document, zoom out, and now you can use this to kind of place your feather like so, and now you can go brush, grab dock, and now you have an alpha as well. Another thing you can do is document. Let's go ahead and do actual, and let's go back to, it's at W size, hit new document, and to W size, W size, new document. No, I don't want to save. So now W size will fill up this entire space with your new document. And now when you drag this out, you got a new document in here. And you could also try going out of edit mode and then going into your 2D tools and grabbing your mRGB Z grabber. If you want to hold down shift, you can constrain it to a square, or you can just drag it over here, and that'll go ahead and grab your alpha as well. So a couple different methods there. Again, www.zbrushguides.com, and it's a feather tutorial by Pablo Munoz Gomez. Alpha palette, go to transfer subpalette. Oh, we didn't do that. Also, you can go alpha, grab dock, or you can go to the alpha palette, transfer, grab dock. Forgot about that one. It's an image, so you can export it. So now that you have an alpha in here, you can go to export with that alpha selected, or again, alpha, export, and it'll export as a PSD. So you can save that in your alphas. Of course, if you want to do multiple alphas, like if you had a bunch of feather brushes, we'll go through that in a second. So if you want it to fade out, so if you want it to fade out as you're dragging it, you can change the gradients so they overlap. So let's go ahead and grab a sphere, edit, make PolyMesh 3D, and let's go ahead and I guess we can DynaMesh this. Okay, so let's see if I missed something here. I think up here he mentioned just load your alpha, start dragging it onto your model. So you're going to use a drag rect. Doesn't say which brush. I suppose it doesn't really matter. We'll try standard brush. Well, it kind of does matter. So standard brush, drag rect. Well, you know what? Let's keep our standard brush nice, and we'll go ahead and hit clone. And then we're going to do a drag rect, and then we're going to grab our alpha here, and then we need to go back to Z add. And let's take our focal shift down to -100. And let's not grab the depth one. Let's grab the grab document that we did. And we need more resolution on here. You can bump up your DynaMesh resolution to get more resolution, and you can hit Control D and you can subdivide it. So now if this is coming out too much, just grab your Z intensity and pump that down. So there we go. And now we can just drag out these feathers. Again, if you wanted to switch the direction, just go ahead and drag down. And if you wanted to do the overlapping so that it kind of gradients out, let's look at that. So we go into our alpha here, modify, and then there's a radial fade, which is not what I'm looking for. I'm trying to see if there's a way in ZBrush with alpha adjust maybe. Trying to see if I can gradient out, create, modify. Let me see. One day to make them nanomeshes maintain the UVs of the original without going through the extra steps to make that happen. I thought there was, but maybe I'm crazy. This actually, let me just send it to you guys. That'll probably be better. Here you go. This is, but for the video people, ZBrush Guides, ZBrush Feathers tutorial, ZBrushGuides.com. And I'm not finding a way to add a gradient from dark to light. But now what I'm wondering is fall off? No. Strength? No. Density? Intensity, streak length. That'd be if we wanted to paint it. Radius, blur, mid value, radial fade. contrast. I was hoping somewhere in here. Okay, so one thing we might be able to do, again, just while we're in ZBrush, is when you go to capture this thing, there's a way to do it in the geometry. Because you can always tilt it backwards. We'll do alpha, alpha, grab dock. So now when you tilt it, it'll go darker to lighter. But that's also going to do another push. So let's see. I guess we could just edit the image. Okay, so off the top of my head, I can't think of a way to do that elegantly within ZBrush itself, unless I'm missing something obvious. I'm trying to see if I can occlude that geometry. I mean, I guess you could. Let's see if we just take that part out, and then we go to alpha, grab dock, and then if we pop in a radial fade. Okay, so that could work, but the radial fade has to be at the top. So if I move this to the top, alpha, this is kind of janky, but alpha, grab dock, and then over here, try the radial fade. So that'll keep the middle light, but then fade away towards the top. And now if we go back to our sphere, that kind of does it. So instead of going to Photoshop, you could try that, I suppose. And now you can just do the overlapping feather alpha things. Now, again, like I said, if you wanted to do multiple feathers, so if we go back to our source feather here, and let's say instead of having to load in an alpha every single time, let's go ahead and go to our subtool here, and we're going to duplicate this off. And this is going to be not great, but we'll go ahead and do a quick mirror across the X symmetry, and we'll go ahead and pull, turn off X, we'll go ahead and pull this around, and we'll go ahead and use our clip, and then our snake hook, and then we can use our pinch. And then we'll go ahead and duplicate this one, and we'll go ahead and shrink it down. And let's mirror that back around. Now, obviously, when you go to make your feathers, spend more time making them decent. I'm just trying to get variation here really quickly to show you guys. So we've got all these three feathers. They're fairly high poly, so what I probably would do if I'm going to use these as just alphas is decimate these things down to a reasonable amount. So if we wanted to, we go in here to Z plugin, decimation master, preprocess current, and then just drop this thing down to, let's say, like 10K, hit enter, decimate. So now it'll just pull the alpha detail from this. Of course, dial that number in as high as you want to. If you don't want to do 10, you can do like 25 and decimate. And if you don't see any change, then you're in good shape. All I want to do now is hit the B key, and then we can do a create insert multi-mesh. So this will just be an insert mesh. So if we go back to our sphere that we were using, we can start just inserting. Let's see, delete lower. We can just start inserting our feathers on here, like so. If we want to cycle through those feathers, we can go to our brush here, and we can go to modifiers, and you can do this multi-mesh selector. You can choose that. You can set it to 1, and that'll cycle through your different feather variants. If you set it to, if you hold down control, maybe it won't say. I think 1 is cycle forward, 2 is cycle back, and then 3 is random. So this will be more of a random cycling through. Is it? Yeah, okay. I suppose it is. So now we've got those. So we've got alphas being pulled out, and then we've got insert meshes being put on. If you wanted to do alpha brushes out of these, let's go to our brush, create. Let's see if we create a multi-alpha brush. Oh, that's going to create it from what we have selected. So go back to our subtools here and hit create multi-alpha brush. And now when we go through here, you know what I noticed is that, see how it's not giving me, it didn't make me a new multi-alpha brush, but if I go to B, like Chisel 3D, and then I go create multi-alpha brush, now it actually makes me a multi-alpha brush. I don't know, that's weird. And where is that brush being? Oh, it replaces. Okay, so multi-alpha brush replaces the brush. Okay, I must have forgotten about that. Doesn't give you a new brush, it just replaces the one. So, you know, use a chisel or clone the chisel off and then use multi-alpha brush. The things I forget. Fill several books. Let's go ahead and split hidden here. And then if we grab this one here, now we can change the intensity down. And now we're using the properties of this brush to use alphas to go ahead and stamp these out. And because it's a multi-alpha brush, we can still go down here to our multi-mesh selector and we can set that to, you know, cycle through or random. And now you can randomly just cycle through your feather alphas like so. So you can do insert mesh brushes and then alpha brushes or multi-alpha brushes. You can also when we made our original multi-insert mesh brush, we captured them all from the side. If you want to, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control W to group all of these. And then I'm going to do a merge visible. And then I'm going to append those merged feathers. And I'm going to rotate those straight towards the camera. And then I'm going to do a group split. I could just do split the parts as well. I'm just making sure there wasn't any stragglers there that would do anything weird. So now with all of these, I can hit B, create insert multi-mesh, and now when I go back to my trusty sphere here, now we have an insert mesh brush that has them where you can drag them out flat, or you have an insert mesh brush where when you drag them, it crashes ZBrush. But it'll drag them so that it's pointing into your mesh. So let's go ahead and relaunch that, and we'll go ahead and load back up our scene that we're working on. There's FiberMesh methods. I might have you guys go through that one on your own. That one is, I don't know how exciting watching me struggle with FiberMesh would be, but maybe we can give it a shot. Let me, get my screen size here. So if ZBrush ever crashes, under your quick save, here's the recovered Z tool, recovered document, and the recovered Z project. We can probably just load up the Z project, it'll be fine. There we go. And now again, we can go to our brush that we made here, and because we're looking straight back at this feather and then straight forward on these feathers, we got 6 here. Let's try that again. Brush, create insert multi-mesh, sphere, make polymesh 3D, brush settings, modifiers, multi-mesh selector random. So as we're cycling through, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now it's just cycling randomly through. Of course, that's not going to really work that well because we only want to cycle through either the first 3 or the back 3. I think there's a way to do that as well. So if we go to multi-mesh select, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, 1, 2, that's it. Okay, so we'll start at 3, and then variations, we're going to go to 3. And now if we just do random, it'll only, let's say, mesh select set to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. And then, actually, let's hit C. 0, 1, 2, 3, and then variations set to 3. It goes back to 1. Okay, so I think we just have to cycle forward then, or backwards. 3 and 3. No. Okay, I guess all of these need to be set. So this one needs to be set 3 and 3. This one needs to be set 3 and 3. No. Okay. When in doubt, brush, insert, no, brush, curve. Oh, you know what? That was for a curve brush. Maybe that's different. Brush, insert, curve. And then this vine here, multi-mesh select set to 26. Oh, variation selector, duh. Okay, so if you want to cycle through something where you added variations, you need to not do this one and do variation selector, cycle through. So now let's see. Okay, so now it'll keep us randomly varying through just these three. So multi-mesh selector set to 0, 1, 2, 3, variations of 1, 2, and 3, and then cycle through these variations randomly. You're going to see as we're pulling this out, it's kind of buried inside the mesh. So go to your depth here and then move this out. And now as we cycle through, it'll cycle through randomly. Just with those three that are pointing out. Alternatively, you can start with 0, 1, 2, and then cycle through the flat ones as well. So all within one brush, you should be able to cycle through those. Yeah, we try. The only problem I had with tilting it is the half of it. It would fade out half of it, but then it would bump out more on one side, which is actually kind of good if you wanted to layer with the alphas there. But or you can go to Photoshop, or you can do the whole radial fade weird trickery thing that we did. Cool. Again, if you're just joining us, here's the tutorial we're going through. It's Pablo Munoz Gomez, ZBrushGuides.com. This is he also goes through, so that was just the basic first part here, just making a feather, and then we went through a bunch of extra different steps for, like, you know, moving these things around, dragging them out. This one is FiberMesh, and I kind of fibers, alphas, mesh. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways you could go about this, because yeah, once you have a texture, you can apply that. You can make FiberMesh feathers here. So here's how you make FiberMesh feathers. Textures. Adding them to FiberMesh, and then adding your texture variants to the FiberMesh as cards. And then starting with your geometry and then using fibers growing from that. I suppose you could also use NanoMesh as well. Yeah, a lot of different ways. Speaking of NanoMesh, you could, since you have all of these feathers available to you. Ooh, these are heavy feathers though. Okay, here's what we can do. We can go back to our feathers here, and we can go to Z plugin, Decimation Master, preprocess all. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and decimate all. We're going to decimate all of these things down to 10K here. So K polys, 10, enter, decimate all. And that drops our total points down from 500,000 down to 20,000. And now we can go to B, create insert multi-mesh. Now this is much lighter weight. So now with this brush selected, we can go to our brush menu. And we can go to create NanoMesh brush. And now if we grab a sphere, go into polyframe here. Let's go ahead and initialize this sphere as H divides and V divides as 16. And then we'll hit make PolyMesh 3D, and I'm going to chop off these polarized caps, delete hidden. And now if we hover over this, let's go grab our Z modeler brush. We have these feathers out, and we can go through here. We can do insert NanoMesh on all polygons, and then as you drag this out, whatever brush, whatever feather you have selected, we'll go ahead and come out of the object here. And or you could do it in groups. So if you had like in the ZBrush guide here, the different types of feathers. So if you had different feathers modeled for the top ones and the middle ones and the bottom ones, you could have those, and then you could give polygroups to those. So you can go through here, and we can isolate these ones, hit Control W, isolate these ones, hit Control W, and then when you drag out the feathers, you can do QMesh polygroup all. And now, keep going back to my other one, not QMesh, insert NanoMesh polygroup all. And now we can have these type of feathers on this top one, and then we can switch it to these type of feathers for this one, and then we can switch it to this type of feather for the bottom one. Now that you have all of those, you can go through here and we can go to NanoMesh, and we can orient these ones. Before we go start orienting, you can go into here to Geometry, Modify Topology, and you can do Align Edge. And then I'll go ahead and make sure that your edges are all lined up, as well as going in here to your NanoMesh and doing alignment and just align to normal. But for this first one here, we've got index 0 is our first one we dragged out, so now we can go ahead and offset and rotate these things. So let's go ahead and see what rotation we want. We want it to rotate down this way. And you can also go through here, and let's see if we can rotate these back. There we go. So this will kind of give them a layered look here. If you wanted them still organized but tiled, you can go through here with V-tile, and you can just tile them up in the V direction, kind of fill up more per, it's basically putting a feather per face, but now we're putting 2 feathers per face. You can also do offsets as well. So you got width variance here, length variance, and height is, we probably don't need to change the variance, but you can make them thicker or thinner. And then we can go through here and just crank up these variances here just to kind of give it some randomness. And then Z offset's fine. Okay, and because it is just instances, you can go through here and you can just move these polygons around, or you can even go through here if you decide, you know what, it might be easier to see this if you turn off NanoMesh temporarily. You can go through here and you can start alt painting and then tap shift, and that'll go ahead and inherit that polygroup, or you can go here on the face and do polygroup single poly, tap this one, tap shift, and then you can polygroup these. But as you're polygrouping those, what it's basically doing is reassigning what feathers go where. So you can always go through here and then give it different feather properties. If you also want to, you can go down here to your NanoMesh. You can do random distribution, so you can just kind of randomly distribute those feathers if you want. If you like these settings, you want to apply them to another one, you can go over here to copy, and then we'll go to index 1 and we'll paste those settings. And now these feathers have that pasted, and then we can go to index 3 and we can paste those settings, and now those have the same settings. Yeah, this one really decimated down. One of those feathers really took a beating on that decimation. So what I'm going to do is replace that one. So I'm going to hit brush, go to my Z modeler brush that we made, and let's see if I hover over, it's that middle one. So I'm going to grab this one here, and I'm just going to drag on this pink one and just replace it, and then we'll go ahead and paste those settings that we liked. And again, let's give it a few more variances here, and also let's take that Z offset, or I'm sorry, the X rotation. We'll rotate that back a little bit here. And height, we don't need that much variance, but length, maybe we want to vary that length quite a bit. If you don't want to see the sphere underneath, just turn off show placement. You can still move it around, I think. Yeah. If you also want to go through here and say, okay, index 0, I don't like to look at those feathers. So you can go in here to edit mesh, and that'll just pull up a copy or an instance, or actually the actual mesh, and then you can modify this however you want. So if you wanted to go in here to your snake hook and just pull out, let's turn off X symmetry here. You know, pull out more of these little stragglers in here, resculpt it or whatever you want to do. Go back out of edit mesh, and then it'll go ahead and update your mesh to have those changes for you. Like this. We could try, this is actual, it's not real geometry yet, but you can still go ahead and render it like it is. I think, in fact, if we go over here to render, external render, key shot, let's see if it'll throw over key shot as instances. Whoops. Hold on just a second. Let's make key shot fit our screen. Yeah, so it'll go ahead and, oh, looks like our object's upside down. Alrighty. So using the ZBrush bridge. So we just have, okay, we have 3. Let's go ahead and just rotate all these things around. So I'll right click this and we will move this and we'll rotate it 180 degrees. I mean, we could do that in ZBrush as well. You know, when I'm modeling in ZBrush, good rule of thumb is to turn your floor on so you can see how you're oriented in space before you get too far. But here we go. We got the feathers in here. And you could also bring over polypaint if you wanted to. So let's see if we can. You know what? Let's say if we go in here to edit mesh. And we go brush. RGB is turned on. We want to color fill that object. And we'll go to a lighter one. Let me go ahead and paint this a little bit, and let's turn that RGB intensity down a little bit. And we'll go over here. Oh, I still got snake hook. Oh, okay. We got one feather that looks like this, and then go out of edit mesh. And then I think we need to go down here to colorize and use the mesh color, mesh material here. Let's turn off our floor. There we go. And then on these other nano meshes here, let's I can't alt tab nano meshes, sorry. Go to the other index and edit this mesh, and we'll go ahead and color fill object. Lighter. Let's go ahead and turn off our lazy brush here. And let's see if there's anything in the any examples in here. And not really. So those are those two. And so this poly paint we should be able to send over. Before we do that, we can make this. So right now they're all just instances. So as we're making changes to one, it'll make changes to all of them. If you were happy with this and you wanted to go ahead and make even more changes, what we can do is if you turn on show placement, you'll see the ball again. And then we can go over here to inventory, and you can do 1 to mesh 3 times, or you can go up here to geometry and convert BPR to geo, and that'll go ahead and convert all of your feathers to real geometry. So now we've got this sitting out here. We can turn on our polyframe here. Do Control Shift to grab this piece of the poly group, Control Shift A to grab all of it, Control Shift drag to invert that, and then go ahead and delete hidden. So we've got our object here. So now these are all individual feathers. So if we go in here and move, we'll move these feathers around. If you go into your move properties here and you do auto masking, turn on topological, you can go through here and you can just move around one individual feather. So you can go through here and make variances. You can also make your draw size down to just 1, and then that'll go ahead and just move any individual one around. You can also make a different polygroup for every single feather and then turn on mask by polygroups up to 100. So a lot of different ways you can go through here and start modifying these. I also forgot, during the feather creation, you could probably go into your deformers in the gizmo and start making like twists and use brush curves and stuff to make your feathers a little bit more interesting. But now we have that. We can go over here and we'll send this one over to Keyshot. Forgot. Before we do that, let's go ahead and turn on our floor. And now let's go ahead and mirror this in the Y. There we go. Now we're facing upwards. Alrighty. And now if we look over here in our scene, we've just got one material in here. You could make this whatever you wanted. I don't know what a good feather material would be, but we'll start with a plastic. We don't want to get rid of our poly paint though. Let me see if we go over here and change it to a plastic. And now I can play with the roughness. This might be better suited for like an anisotropic, but like there's no real, I'm just kind of sculpting this stuff on here, so I'm not sure how much that would really help. But anyway, here's some feathers hanging out. So yeah, if you guys missed all that, the ZBrushGuides.com, we just went over the feather tutorial. We just went over the first part. I think there's 3 parts. Yes, that is an insert multi-mesh brush. Yeah, every year I'll get some good allergies going. It's always fun. Cool. So anyway, yeah, go to ZBrushGuides.com. Check out the other feather stuff. You know, I could probably just do this. I would want to give this a spin first. I hate jumping into a tutorial cold like we did this morning and just kind of figuring it out on the fly. That's probably a little bit boring to listen to. But I would give this a spin. In fact, if you go to, I've done this before with his Pablo's ZBrush Guides stuff. If you go to my YouTube channel here and you go to playlists, here's a link. We also did this with the ZBrush Guide stylized rendering here. So you can go through here and we went through a stylized guide and we just did all of the cool comic book style rendering. So speaking of, let's go ahead and just pause that. And we can go back in here and let's see if we can swap that material out with something a little more stylized. I'm going to go to materials here, and this is ZBrushGuides.com as well. And now we can do like a pen and ink render. We still have our poly paint. If you don't want to see the poly paint, you just turn off colorize. And now you can see this was a little bit more of a pen and ink look. And you can also go through here and go through that tutorial as well. And we'll go to material here and modifiers, and we'll turn on this too. And this looks like this one is, these things are so thin, they're acting a little bit unpredictably. I guess you might have to play with, let's turn that one on. Oh, S3 we need to turn on, sorry. I got that reversed in my head. There we go. So now we have a little bit of a deeper look to the rendering here. And you can still, oh, forgot we had Keyshot here. So, yep, that's fine. Let's go ahead and kill that. So it won't connect, and also we'll go in here to our renderer and we'll just turn off Keyshot. So within ZBrush you could go through here and you could turn on, you could do BPR rendering and you could do shadow rendering and get some cool line art type effects through that. But we've done that before. So anyway, hope that helped. And that was alphas and insert mesh brushes and NanoMesh brushes, so that should be plenty to keep you occupied. Like I said before though, in the guide itself, ZBrushGuides.com, you can go through and do the feather, or the, man, my brain is gone this morning. The FiberMesh to do your feathers as well. So What else? Sculpting in clay right now. Where's control C? Yeah, whenever I go to do anything analog, I always secretly wish for, even when I'm doing sketching, I've been doing a lot of sketching in real life with different pencils and stuff, and it's kind of a hassle. I'm not gonna lie. That doesn't make me sound like much of an artist, but there's a lot of fun, cool stuff about sketching digitally and the freedom, and not even just undos, but the ability to very quickly like just switch to like an ink to a pencil to or you know, do oil paint effects or acrylic paint effects and change colors without having to go through the hassle of actually mixing colors and getting a palette out. And let's go ahead and drop the intensity down. So now that we've got all of that, let's go ahead and do some sort of bird creature. What kind of bird we want to do? Okay, so we're going to make a bird creature here. And I'm going to go ahead and drop his resolution down quite a bit just to get our basic shapes going. For the beak, we can go through here and we can just throw in a sphere right down the middle. We'll go ahead and make this whatever shape we want, really. Speaking of deformers, I'm going to do a quick split mask points. Hold down Alt, go to the middle, and then we can just go into our deformers here. We can do a bend arc. Hit X to go out of X symmetry, so that we can use its arc here, and then we can just use these deformers here. You can also do twist deformers, all sorts of fun, zany stuff to kind of get that look you're going for. And then we can go out of that mode, go across X symmetry here, and now you can also use Shift or pinch brush to go through here. And then we'll say, yes, that's fine. Accept that, and we'll scale this in. And again, we'll go to the pinch brush here, and we'll pinch this in. So we've got our beak here. If we want to, we can just, it inherited the DynaMesh properties from the mesh we inserted it on. I'm going to go ahead and raise the resolution on this one. And now this is DynaMesh. Now if we want to make an upper and a lower beak, what we can do is, this is all one polygroup right now. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, go into Slice Curve, and I'm going to slice this beak where I want it sliced. Now it's just two polygroups here. If I turn on groups with my DynaMesh, now I've got two separate pieces, and I can go ahead and do a split hidden under your split menu there. So now we've got these two. If we want to make this beak overlap it a little bit here, we can just scale this one out and possibly scale it down a little bit, and you can just go in here to remove brush as well. So on this head here, let's raise that resolution just a tiny bit. And we'll go in here with our move brush. And we can go ahead and start just sculpting on this thing. So we've got a head here, and we'll go ahead and pull this forward. And then this backwards, and then we'll go to, I'm just tapping Alt to go between the different subtools here. Let's hold down Shift and turn off our poly paint so we know which subtool we're working on. And if you wanted a really nice geometry for this, you could just ZBrush it. I'm not overly concerned with that right now. And I guess we'll go ahead and put some sort of nostril on here. We'll go deep, and then hold down Shift and shallow. If you want to put a little ridge on the back here, you can. And do we have something weird going on with this brush? Seems weird. That seems all right. Okay, so also always remember you can go through here and make any changes that you want. Let's go ahead and go into transparent here. I'm going to make a slight change here. I'm going to move this up. And then we'll go back here, and now we can start putting in eyes. So I guess depending on the type of bird, some birds are going to have their eyes more forward on their head, some are going to have more on the side. Let's go ahead and just throw an eyeball on the side of his head here. And we'll do split mask points, and we'll move these in. We can hit D to turn on dynamic if we want to make those a little smoother temporarily. And we could also turn on LSim, and we can scale this down. So now we've got bird's eye here, and now we can go back to our original mesh here, and now I can kind of build up this look here, and our move brush. So towards the beak here, we'll kind of sink that in a little bit, and then just DynaMesh as you go. And then we'll use our Damien standard. And our inflate brush. And let's give him a little bit of a, we'll have a little bit of fun with him. So we're going to go in here and give him some cheeks. We're going to make him a little goofy. Then we'll go in here with our standard brush, and we'll go ahead and build out where some of this might go. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my, feels kind of sticky. Like it's not quite as reactive. It's like I had live boolean on or something. Okay, so we got this. Now we need to, let's go ahead and just do a bust. So really quickly, I'm going to drag on a sphere and then do another split mask points. And now again, this is just going to inherit the DynaMesh properties of my original mesh here. So now we can go through here. Maybe it's my new keyboard that I'm not used to. Like so. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a quick merge visible, and then I'm going to do a deformation unify on that merge. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these. Here's our merged mesh, and we're just going to, I just want this to be ZBrush scale. And we go to split to similar parts. And now we split those back out. And let's, just in case, let's go to a quick save, which is 9 on your keyboard. And then quick save, and we'll reload that back up. Oh. Oh no, there's Control Z in ZBrush. In fact, there is thousands of undo. So if we go back to this one here, I'm trying to see if I can find a subtool. I just deleted the one we had. I'll show you the there's I think there's up to 10,000 undos in ZBrush. What we were just saying that when we're modeling in real life with clay, there's no undo. ZBrush has tons of undos. So as I'm modeling this body, you see this little thing at the top here. This little line you can actually drag through your undo history. You can also go to, and undo is just Control Z. So edit, undo, and redo. And I think it'll store up to 10,000. You can also play through your undo history if you wanted to make a movie of your undo history. Let me go ahead and say, you know, let's do like a little vulture guy. Vulture-ish. So the neck might be kind of fun to do. So we can go ahead and kind of put his body down here. So to put a nice snaky neck in here, you can just hold down W and Control drag out a copy of this and then scale it down like so. Let's go ahead and do a split mask points, And now we can go through here and we can just kind of move this around. Alternatively, you could use like an insert curve brush, but you'd want to drop a line or a panel down the middle to kind of help you out with that, but I think that'll work fine. Also with this one, we can go back into our insert mesh brushes and we can just insert another one here. Let's go to split mask points again. And again, that's just going to inherit the DynaMesh properties we already had. So now we've got a few different pieces here. So we got this little, now they have these little hairy little collars on them. And then they got these little skinny necks. We can go through here and hold down Shift to smooth. And also we can go in here to pinch if we want to make this neck thinner. And if we want to make his neck longer, but we want to move all of these different subtools we have, just go to your gizmo, turn on this multi-mover, hold down Control Shift, and we can just grab these subtools we want to move. We can move them all at once. And then we can also rotate them, so we can kind of start doing that, and then Control Shift drag to get rid of those. If you want to know more about Intro to ZBrush 4R8 type things, go to my playlist here, and you can do Intro to ZBrush 4R8, what's new. There's 61 videos in here, I think. Yeah, 61 videos on all the new stuff in ZBrush. That's one of them. Is the Gizmo stuff is all in the top 4. So now we have this going. We can go ahead and smooth this out and then move these around. And okay, so we've got that little feather collar here. We've got his fat head at the top. Let's go ahead and turn on X symmetry. Let's go ahead and raise that resolution just a little bit. When I unified it, I should have turned on X symmetry before I split them apart. That would save me a little bit of time. So we've got this, and now for the feathers here, I think that's just going to be another simple matter of grabbing these spheres, shrinking them down, splitting mask points, rotating this around. And if we wanted to do NanoMesh on this one for our feathers that we were doing, we can go ahead and do that again. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of give it a vaguely feathery look here. Like so. And now I really just want to take these top pieces here. Let's go ahead and do a split mask points if we haven't already. Because really, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold down Control Shift. I'm going to go to Select Lasso, go into Solo mode. I'm going to hold down Control Shift and get rid of that edge ring temporarily. The reason I went to Select Lasso is you can do edge ring selection with Select Lasso. I'm going to do a quick auto groups, bring everything else back, Control Shift, tap that top poly. Well, let's do a quick mirror and weld. Else I'm turned off. We'll grab this top poly group here, delete hidden. It also looks like we have, another auto groups. That's weird. Auto groups, mirror and weld. Grab this top poly group. There we go. Delete hidden. And now I'm just going to ZBrush this group here. Let's go ahead and say same. There we go. So this is a nice, simple ZBrush here. So we can just use this as a base for our NanoMesh brush that we made earlier. So here's our, if we did. So we've got these 3 here. Let's go ahead and say create NanoMesh brush. Is this our decimated version? I don't remember. Make a decimated version like we did earlier. And now we can go through here. And again, if you're doing different layers, like if you're looking at a vulture here, and it's like these feathers are different from these feathers, but they're different from these feathers, make 3 different feathers. And then use those on your NanoMesh here with different polygroups here. So we can go through here and we can isolate this one. Let's go to the side here. We'll grab all of these ones, hit Control W, and then we'll grab all of these ones, hit Control W. And now we've got 3 different polygroups. And now when you go in here to our brush here, let's see if we can do insert NanoMesh, polygroup all. And let's go ahead and geometry, modify topology, align edge. There's one type of feather. And again, you can, if you are poly painting these things, go ahead and go into the I think it was mesh material is what we wanted to keep. And now you can go through here and drag on your different types of feathers into the individual polygroups, go through all the settings that we went through. You can try align to normal as well, and then we'll go in here to rotation. Here, and then do all your variances and stuff, and then the X rotation I think is what we're looking for, so we kind of feather those out a little bit, and then you can also make them wider or thinner, or if we do make them thinner and then we want to tile them not, is it vertically or horizontally? Looks like vertically. We'll tile it vertically once, or twice I should say. And then we'll play, you can also play around the size, overall size, and all these variances too. Probably not too much on the offsets though. Anyway, then you can start layering those things on, and always, because this is a instance, you can go through here and move these things around. So just like we were doing earlier today, making these feathers, looks like this side isn't getting the same thing, but once you're finished with all this and you go to geometry, convert BPR to geo, you can just do a quick mirror and weld, and that'll go ahead and fix that for you. But let's see if we can do X rotation we want to keep out, and then Z rotation, we're going to rotate these down. There we go. And then in this one here, we can go ahead and do a poly group. Oops. Just really quickly while we're thinking about it here. Let's grab that one. And if we like the settings of our index 1, we'll copy and then paste that. And then one more time, we'll go to paste. And then again, just like we did before, we can go ahead and edit these things. So if we go to index 0, although if these are the same feather, if I paint one, they're going to paint the other one. So if we go in here to edit mesh, go into solo mode, and let's go ahead and go into our standard brush here, turn on RGB, and we'll do just a light brown. Guess we can do just go color fill, and then we'll do white around the edges here, and then down the middle. Go out of edit mesh mode, and then we go down here to mesh material. I'll go ahead and give it that color, and then, okay, that's actually perfect. That's what I want. So if I go into that one again, I'm going to lighten this up just a little bit more. It's very sparingly brown. Looks like it kind of maybe a little darker on the bottom, and then it kind of fans out, a little more saturation here. Okay, so that's the feather we want for the top. And then for these bottom feathers here, we can go to index 1, and we can go into edit mesh. And then for this one, I'm going to be a lot darker. You could also just bring in a texture import loaded in the spotlight, and you can actually paint the feather texture on there. That's another thing you could do. I didn't think about that. We'll do a little exercise on that too. If you find a high resolution feather, you can just paint that onto a plane. Let's see, tools, size, large. See if I can find a decent one. That'll work. Okay, we'll try that. Anyway, back to this one here. We were going to paint this one, and this one we could do a little bit of light towards the bottom, it looks like, coming up this way. Now those are changed. Let's go back in here. So now you can kind of start getting this type of look, really light feathers, and then going in here to darker feathers. And, you know, go in here and change the length variances too as well. I think index 2 is the one where we really want to make these things pretty long. That means we're also going to have to change our X rotation a little bit just to kind of stick those underneath. And let's go to index 1, and we'll change that X rotation as well. And again, if you don't want to see the plane behind it, you can just turn off show placement. And now you've got these feathers hanging off this dude, and then you can do render. Go to render him out. And if you wanted to change all of these individually, if you need the NanoMesh properties aren't doing it for you, and you want to just kind of go in here and polypaint on all these at once, what you can do is probably the easiest way is just go to geometry, convert BPR to geo, and now we've got all these as one mesh. Go into solo mode here. You can hold down Control Shift, and we can isolate out these individual feathers here. Invert that, and then we'll just go ahead and delete hidden. So now we've got all these feathers here, so now you can go through here and you can start mottling this up if you want to. So we can go to RGB, and we can go in here with like a, looks like this one has a little bit more gray at the bottom. You can start going through here. You can start dialing in some of the grays and the darks. And then through here, you can also hit C if you want to just sample from here, and you can start dialing in variations along these feathers. And then we can go in with a little bit of a lighter. Let's go ahead and sample this color up here. And then we can go down here through some of these. Like that. And because they're all one mesh, you can go through here and you can move. Now we do have topological on, so you can move in meshes individually, or you can turn topological off, and you can kind of do this. Now this is the FiberMesh. Same kind of deal, only you'd be using fibers with cards that you would load in your texture onto the FiberMesh. Something like that. And all of these feathers too, on this one up here, let's see, do we still have our alpha brush we made? Our chisel brush, I think got rid of the chisel brush, but you can go into this brush here, and let's grab our chisel rect, and then we will clone this, and then we'll go to delete mesh, and we'll just delete all of these out here. And then we'll go to brush, create multi-alpha brush, and now we've got all of these alphas from the feathers in there. And then we can go back to our sculpt. And then on, say, this one up here, let's go ahead and raise that DynaMesh resolution up quite a bit. And then as we drag these out, let's go ahead and drop that Z intensity down. You can go through here and you can use alphas instead. If you want to cycle through these alphas, you can just tap up here, or you can randomly cycle through. We talked about this earlier too, so let's go to our modifiers here. And so if we set our mesh select to 0, trying to see which one was decimated poorly, this one. So you know what, let's just cycle between these two here, these first two. So I'm going to do multi-mesh select at 0, and I'm going to go to variations of 2, and then the variation selector I'm just going to do random between these two. So as I'm going through here, it's going to randomly choose a different feather. Now when we captured these, we talked about this too, where you can capture the top part with a little bit more of a radial fade, or you can go into Photoshop and gradient it out, or you can tilt it away from the camera so that it fades towards the back here, so that way you can kind of get this overlapping look here. But again, we're just playing it fast and loose. but you can use alphas instead of nanomeshes to kind of get that look as well. And then you just go through here and you can paint that. Cool. Feathers for a game ready mesh would be just more like hair cards. So I guess we can talk about that too. So let's say on the body here, we want to do feathers, but with like hair cards. So we're going to go ahead and paint in a mask where we want these feathers to go. And we can go over here to our FiberMesh. And we say, actually, you can go to Lightbox Fibers and see, do they have feathers in here? Maybe they should. That'd be cool. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with this stuff. So we do this one here. And then we hit render. That'll go ahead and render these fibers out so we can see them a little bit better. And so now we're getting kind of a hair look. Let's go ahead and take these. We're going to modifiers here. And we'll say max fibers way down. And we'll do width profile and the coverage way up. And it looks like, let me see what kind of preview settings, BPR settings. Profile 1, segments 11. Okay, I'm going to drop the segments down. And also, it's giving us a lot of, if we go ahead and render this, you're going to see when we BPR render, gives us a lot nicer preview. And these could kind of be feathers. There are feathers that kind of look like this. They're a little bit more tubular and hairy-like. But if that's not what you're going for, we can go over here to our scale root. Scale tip is fine. But really what I'm looking for is the length. We can drop that down a bit. And it's really, I'm going to drop these variances down quite a bit. Coverage, scale, root, twist. There we go. Let's go ahead and drop our twist down. H tangent, V tangent, clumps down. I'm just trying to get a little bit more regular. And we swap this out with like a feather image, which I don't really have. You could just load this up with a feather. It would go root to tip. So just bring in your image here, and then when you render it, you'll have a feather in here. For instance, you know, if your feather was a star, you could render every single one of these cards out as a different star or whatever. But yeah, we would need a feather texture to kind of bring in here that was vertical and square. And I'm trying to see if there's anything that could be, yeah, not really. Now, if we just look at the cards themselves, let's crank these max fibers down again. You can make them longer, wider. The width profile here, you can really kind of crank these things up. So each individual one of these things could be a feather. And if we go over here to the segments, we can drop these more or less. So here's 3, here's 11, here's a bunch. So you can kind of play with that just to get your hair cards in there. I'm still, don't mind a little gravity. There we go. Okay, it was direction variance that was killing me. So there's our feathers. So if we go ahead and our gravity is camera based, so here's no gravity. It's like a turkey. And then we'll go ahead and drop some gravity on here. And then now we can do some length variances up here. So let's go back up here to length. And now let's give it a little bit of variance on our length. And we can also crank up our max fibers. There we go. Now he's got kind of a hairy body. And again, if you did have a feather texture, let's see if we can just find, I have one feather, but it kind of needs to be specifically a feather that's kind of in an up and down direction. I don't want to do too much work. Well, I'll let you guys do that, but you can go in here to texture Actually, you know what? I have it set to large. Let's see if we can just set it to any size, if that gives us a better... Because these things don't need to be huge textures, they just need to be... it's more of an alpha. Come on. And also for transparency, you can bring it as a PNG or have the background be pure black, and that'll go ahead and cut that out. So if you look at these textures here, you can kind of see a black outline around the star. Any pure black pixels will render as transparent in ZBrush, so that's what you're going to want to do when you bring in a feather. Anyway, if you have these things here, we can go to accept, and now that we've accepted that, we have fibers out here, and now you can go to like BG, groom, and you can just groom these feathers like so. Do whatever you want. You can also hold down shift and smooth, so if you wanted like shorter feathers up here, you can do that. And then if you want longer feathers down here, you can do groom lengthen. And now as you're grooming, you can kind of pull them out a little bit, so you can kind of get some variations going on there that are very specific. Yeah. Cool. I would say that's cool. And yeah, we could render this in Keyshot. Let's see if we go through. Let's see. Render. And you know, yeah, loading those up. There's also one other thing we needed to try, as far as just getting an alpha from a feather. And you could also use spotlight too, I suppose. And then, so when we sent this over, the BPR turned it into real geo. So what that did, let's talk about that. So in the back here, if we do, oh my God. Okay. Hold on. Render Keyshot. So you see when I render this, it makes these feathers kind of fat. That's based on when we went to the BPR settings here. When we render, it changes the sides to 4 and then gives us subdivisions and stuff to make it smoother. If you wanted to keep that lower, let's see if we can turn that sides down to 2. There we go. So that'll keep it flatter on the BPR render. Same thing as when we send it over to Keyshot. If we wanted those flat. Oops. Render, external render. There we go. So now when we send that over, it won't convert it to round geo. It'll be nice flat card geo. Like so. But the other thing we're going to try is we can go in here to texture, import, and go to my desktop here. And then we'll go grab a plain 3D and make it a polymesh 3D. Now this thing will have UV, so if you go over here to the texture map and we load in this feather, that'll go ahead and load that in. And so now we can turn that transparent if we want to. You could alternatively just go in here to texture, select it, add it to spotlight if it wasn't like a square texture, and you could just paint it onto your polyplane here. Of course, if you're going to do that, or if you're going to transfer this to a polypaint, you're going to need to make this resolution much higher. Because if we were to do that now, if we were going to go to polypaint from texture, turn on mRGB, and we'll also actually go to standard brush here. Polypaint from texture is going to be super low res, obviously. And let's also switch to skin shader. So let's go over here to geometry, and you can hit Control D, or you can go in here to just hit turn off the smooth modifier, hit divide. So I got 1,000,000 points, and now when you do polypaint from texture, it'll go ahead and do that for us. Now, if we wanted to go ahead and mask this out, and this is just a poly paint here, so if we want to take all of these black areas here, we can try going to masking, and we'll mask by color. Let's mask by intensity, see what that gives us. Might not work. Mask by hue. And we'll turn our poly paint off. And, oof, that did a terrible job. Kind of works. Go ahead and sharpen that mask up a little bit. Interesting. All right, let's try mask by intensity. So we can do mask by intensity, and then if you want to see that, turn off your poly paint, and if you want to adjust this, what you can do is you can go up here to mask adjust, and turn the blur down, and if you hit apply, you can go to the profile here, and I like to do a focal shift and see if I can't just grab the main pieces like that. So now that we have that, we can hit, with our lines turned on, hit Control W. That'll make this all one poly group out here. So now we have poly paint and a separate poly group here. So where the feather is, we can go ahead and separate that out from our plane. Looks like it grabbed the edges here. We can go ahead and get rid of that. Holding down Control Shift. And then delete hidden. Oops. Delete lower. Delete hidden. And now we have a feather plane that you can use, and you can use this as a template if you wanted to. You could go in here and you could sculpt on this and kind of go through here and do whatever you want. It's just your feather to use. And if you want to clean this up a little bit, we can go here, Control Shift, and cut this out. And you know what? Let's go ahead and grab the main piece here, do Control Shift A, and then delete hidden. That'll get rid of all those little stragglers here. And you can use this as a feather for inserting. Let's see if we can, let's try this. Let's go to Z plugin, Decimation Master, preprocess current. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, everybody, thanks for showing up. Kind of wrapping up here. Just going over some feather stuff today. If we go to use and keep poly paint, we'll keep that on because I want to decimate this down, but I don't want to lose my poly paint. I just want to make it more manageable. So let's see if we drop this down to like 15K. That's actually not too bad. I kind of like the stylized look it gave us. If you wanted to, you could bump that up to 25K if you wanted to maintain more detail. But you know what? I like that 15K. All right, so this is our new 15K one here. Now, since this is just sitting out there in space, let's go ahead and we can rotate this down so it's just laying on the floor there, like so. And we can actually throw this into our NanoMesh brush as well. So if we go back to our vulture here, and let's go ahead and say these fibers here, we can go ahead and hide these. Or, you know what we can do? Let's put these purple feathers right on his neck. So I'm going to take his neck here, and if we're just going to be replacing this with geometry, all we need to do is we can hold down Control Shift. Let's go into transparency mode. I'm going to do a trim curve, and I'm going to slice him here, and I'm going to slice him here. Basically, what that's going to give me is a tube for his neck. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, isolate his neck, delete hidden, ZBrush, half, adaptive size down to 0, and we're just going to get new geometry that's nice and even, and just keep hitting half. There we go. So now I've got this proxy mesh in here that I can now go to my ZModeler brush. And instead of making a ZModeler brush, I can just go in here and select that feather here. So now if I go in here and we do Insert NanoMesh Polygroup All, that'll go ahead and drag out that feather. And let's go ahead and go to our geometry, modify topology, align edges, or let's go to our NanoMesh here. First thing we're going to do is turn on mesh material, and then we're going to go and play with these. So we'll do align to normal, and then this Z rotation is not what I'm looking for here. Y rotation, that's fine. X rotation. There we go. So we want to lay this down on his neck, but we also want to flip these 180 degrees. Try some different alignments here. I guess it might be easier if let's see what it does. If I have this one selected and it's on my floor here, and let's try this. Let's say brush, take it back. Create insert NanoMesh button. Oh, create an insert mesh brush. Okay, so B, create insert mesh brush, new. Now, of course, with the insert mesh brush, all you would have to do is if we turn off NanoMesh here, you can just go through and you can just insert this brush on there. But I'm going to do one that's flipped. So we're going to go back to this one. We did one this way. Let's do one that's upside down. Brush, create insert mesh, append. So now we've got two brushes. And I'm going to go between these two to find out which one is better for my NanoMesh brush. So with this insert mesh brush selected, I'm going to do create NanoMesh brush. And now on the neck here, hover over face, insert NanoMesh. Make sure that's, hover over face, hit spacebar, insert NanoMesh, polygroup all. And now I'm going to drag out. Okay, much better. So now they're all vaguely facing the right way to start with, which gives me a lot better starting point. And now you can go through here and you can change your size and your width and your length variances and your height, but there's not really much height to it because it's a single polyplane. And you could extract it if you wanted to give it some depth, and you could go in and sculpt on it like I said before. It's kind of up to you. I keep wanting to do that Y offset. Now, play with these. Align it to normal. Oh, and you know what? Now that we do have a texture that is a feather, we could probably apply that to our FiberMesh as well, although you probably would want to rotate this so that it was kind of up and down. So we can try that too. So anyway, you can do a NanoMesh feather, or we can go back here and we could do delete. And then for the body here, we could try going back into FiberMesh. So here's our FiberMesh again. Let's go back in here to our texture here. There we go. Let's turn off the floor, turn off transparent. So now all of those fibers now have this feather. So now let's change the max fibers down, and the coverage and the width profile will crank that up. And it looks like the feathers are going the wrong way. H tiles, V tiles, transparent texture, yes. Anti-alias, yes. Shoot, let's see if we can flip that vertically. There we go. So now the feathers are going root to tip, and you can embed those a little bit more. I still got this. Let's not scale the tip. Let's keep these both 1 and 1. There we go. Okay, so we get the length here. We can change. So there would be the fiber mesh with a feather texture applied to it with transparency. I wish I could over crank the width profile here, coverage variance. It's kind of nice. I don't know about that one. Yeah. Okay, so let's say we wanted to render this a key shot. We'll do a turntable real quick. So if we go in here and we have that unpaused, and we'll say, let's go to, we're going to use ZBrush Bridge to send that over, render a key shot. Now, I don't know if this is a Keyshot Pro thing versus a Keyshot HD thing, but for animation turntables, I would just go in here to the animation wizard, say turntable, next, what model I want to rotate, which would be, sure, ZBrush, and then tell it 360 degrees, I want to rotate my model, and I want it to be linear and 5 seconds. So now when I play this, it's going to rotate this thing like so. So if you were going to render this out, it would just be render here, and then when you get to your render settings, instead of still image, go to animation, and then you can render it as a video, or you can render it as frames, or both. You can render passes through your turntable. Again, I'm not positive if that's a pro thing or not. But one thing that's looking weird is this transparency didn't go through on this mesh here. So I wonder, use diffuse map alpha, opacity mode, color, inverse color. Yeah, let me see, material graph. The opacity is this texture map. Let me see if I get rid of that. Nope, that's the color. And then this should be the opacity here. Wonder why that's not working. Haven't tried that one yet. So anyway, trying to get that alpha in here. I guess you could bring that in as a alpha map if you were to go to texture. Can we clone this? I mean, you can just make it an alpha, and then you can go to your alpha adjust. I mean, I guess I could do that keyshot too. So if I take my material graph here, and this is my opacity, can I not move stuff here? Let's see if we can go to utilities, color adjust. And we want to say the saturation all the way down. Wish I could see it. Let's see, preview color. Value contrast. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. I was trying to look for like a levels or something where I could desaturate it, and I guess I could do mapping. I don't know. Out of my element here. I'd have to play with that a little bit more. Something like that. Don't need that. There we go. Anyways, think we're pretty good. Thanks for showing up, everybody. I don't think I'm going to be back on the Pixelogic channel this month. I've got kind of a crazy... so here's the, if you want to see the back past episodes, you can go here. And again, if you go to my channel, we went over a lot of stuff in here as the ZBrush guides. And also go to ZBrushGuides.com and go over Pablo Munoz's feather tutorial, which we did this morning. And there, again, he's got a lot more stuff you can do with FiberMesh and feathers and stuff like that. So thanks again, everybody. And see y'all next time.